Hey, it's Stu Schaefer, and I'm about to explain the worst diets for weight loss for women, and especially if you're a woman in perimenopause and menopause. So let's jump right in. Obviously, you can see the board, but let me explain what's going on and how these diets actually wreck your body. All right, let's start with number one, which is the ketogenic diet. Now, really quick, I just want to share a case study of Cheryl. When Cheryl came to me, she had been doing the ketogenic diet because she thought that was the best way for her to lose weight. Well, all it did was completely destroy her body. It caused her to gain a lot of body fat. It caused her to have zero energy, and it caused her hormones to go out of whack. And this is really common. Now, I had another client the same way. Her name's Marcia. Cheryl was in her 60s. Marcia was in her 50s. Marcia was doing the same thing. She followed some of the top ketogenic influencers, and she was convinced that was the way to lose weight. And again, all it did was it caused her to gain weight over time. Now, ironically enough, she lost weight initially, and I'm going to talk about that, but then gained it back, and then kept gaining weight and couldn't lose weight again. She had zero energy. She always felt deprived. In both cases, both Cheryl and Marcia, when they started eating more carbohydrates, started eating more food in general, increased their calories, by the way, that's when they started losing weight and burning off body fat. And that's why I always talk about the calorie myth. In fact, I'll put up a little card here that you can click on at the top of the screen if you want to see my video about why counting calories or restricting calories is the worst way to lose weight. So let's talk about keto. What the heck does this do, and why is it so bad, especially for women in menopause? Well, it does two main things. The first thing it does is it drops your thyroid. Now, there's a medical term. This is a medical term. It is called diet-induced hypothyroid. All that means is you cause hypothyroid through your diet. Now, this can happen in two ways. The first is if you don't eat enough carbohydrates. This will lower your T3 levels. Let me explain how the thyroid works really quick. You have a little gland, actually it's up here, it's your pituitary gland. This detects your thyroid levels, your thyroid hormone levels in the body. If it senses that they're low, it causes your body to release thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH. You may have heard of that. This causes your thyroid, right in this area, to produce T4. That's what your thyroid does. It produces T4 or thyroxine. The body doesn't use the T4 much. The body then has to convert the T4 to T3, and it does that in different organs in your body, and those organs need a very specific fuel to do that, and that fuel is carbohydrates. So when you don't eat many carbs, it lowers that conversion, it lowers that T3. The other way you can cause the hypothyroid is if you eat too much fat. This will actually reduce the amount of T4 the thyroid can produce, which will also mean you have less T3 and it lowers your thyroid. Now, if you lower your thyroid, you're not going to be able to burn fat very well. Thyroid is directly connected to metabolism. So I've seen more women in the last couple of years, and I've been doing this for almost 25 years now, than the previous 17, 18, 19 years combined with thyroid issues, because so many women are doing either low-carb diets or ketogenic diets with high fat, and this is just destroying your thyroid. Now, the other thing, if you do a high-fat diet, this will cause insulin resistance. Now, I just recently made a video all about this. I'm going to go ahead and link that at the top of this screen here. So you can click on that and watch how high-fat diets specifically cause insulin resistance. Because a lot of people will tell you to do a ketogenic diet to reverse insulin resistance, and it can blow up in your face. So you want to watch that video as well. Now, the fasting or low calorie, okay, I'm going to lump these both together. This has many side effects. 5 we're going to go over right here. Now, quick case study on this. I had a client named Robin. When Robin came to me, she was doing fasting, intermittent fasting. She thought, hey, this makes sense. You know, you can go with time without eating. It causes your body to burn fat. Then you eat. And all. She was doing, I think, a 16-hour fast or something like that, or 18-hour. And over the years, as she looked at how her body had changed, it got worse. She kind of lost muscle, gained body fat. And so again, what we did was actually had her eat all through the day. There was no real fasting period. We just made sure she was eating the right food at the right time in the right combination. This creates the correct chemical reaction in the body. This is what forces your body to burn fat without you having to restrict or starve or deprive or any of these silly things. So what happens when you do fasting or too low calorie? Here's what happens. The first thing is your cortisol and adrenaline, they go up. This is a basic stress response that the body always does. If it's not getting food, it's kind of going into a starvation mode. You know, we've all been there. We can feel the blood sugar drop. We get hangry, they call it. This is then going to crank up the cortisol and adrenaline. Well, this will cause your epinephrine and norepinephrine to be released. These are hormones. And this is part of that fight or flight response that we all have, all of us. Well, initially this can actually burn fat. Cortisol is part of the fat burning process. But cortisol is like a little Goldilocks hormone, okay? A little bit is good, too much is bad, and too little is bad. So there's like a sweet spot. If it's too high or it's elevated for too long, this will cause some of these hormones to stay elevated, and this can really impact your body in a negative way. Your gut won't get enough blood flow. This can cause gut issues. It can cause adrenal fatigue. And the cortisol will actually switch your body from initially burning fat to then preventing you from burning fat and actually causing you to burn muscle. Oh, this is very bad. This will cause your metabolism to tank as well. Okay, now speaking of metabolism, the next thing that happens if you're not eating enough or you're fasting and you're not eating all day is your metabolism drops. We all know this. Everyone agrees on this. The body is built to survive. We have survival mechanisms, and one of them is if your body thinks that it's starving, one of the first things that it'll do is lower your metabolism so that you can live on less food or less things for longer periods of time. Now, this is a wonderful thing for survival. I mean, it's wonderful. It's a terrible thing for burning off body fat because if you're cutting your calories or you're fasting or something, you're going to just wreck your metabolism. You're going to cause something called repressed metabolic syndrome. This is another fancy Harvard term. All it means is you're repressing or you're killing your own metabolism until you get to a point where it's super easy to gain fat, very hard to burn fat, and then you'll get into this vicious cycle where when you're working out, you're actually going to be burning muscle, but then anytime you eat, you're going to store that food as fat. It's a terrible cycle. We'll talk about that in a future video. Now, the next thing that happens is your blood sugar becomes very unstable. Now, you want stable blood sugar for weight loss, especially for fat loss. You want to get it into that sweet spot where everything is right where it needs to be, including insulin. I did another video, I'll put a link up at the top, how insulin can actually help you burn fat. See, everyone says, oh, it's terrible, it's going to make you gain fat. That's only if it's out of control. When you know how to control it, you can get your body, you can use it to burn fat. But your blood sugar goes really low when you're fasting or not eating. But then when you eat, it has this pendulum effect and the body overcorrects and it spikes your blood sugar, which causes an insulin spike, which causes you to store fat. This is why if you watch people that really are into fasting, many of them will tell you, eat as few meals as possible because every time you eat, it's going to spike your blood sugar. No, that's not true. That's only true if you're starving, and then you eat, and if you're not combining the right foods at each meal. If you combine the right foods at each meal and you're not starving yourself, your blood sugar will never spike. How do I know this? I've worked with hundreds of clients who have insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, and type 1 diabetes. They've been wearing continuous glucose monitors, and what happens when they're doing it right, their blood sugar is like this little curve that just stays very stable in this sweet spot zone, and they start burning fat. Their energy is always high. They feel great when they exercise. They sleep very well. They have no brain fog. This is very healthy. So you want stable blood sugar, and fasting and low calorie will make it unstable. All right, now there's something called a nutrition threshold that when you're doing intermittent fasting and you're only eating once or twice a day, those meals have to be so big to get enough food for the day that you end up going over your nutrition threshold. Now, what is this? It's another fancy term. All it means is you and me and everyone else, we can only absorb a certain amount of stuff at one time. Now, there's a huge debate online about this. I don't know why there's a debate. There should not be a debate. Some people say you can eat everything all at once and your body will figure out how to use it. This is not true. Okay, now, we know this because for years and years and years, you probably know this. If you take too much vitamin C, what happens? Your body absorbs some of it, you pee out the rest. Okay, well, all vitamins are the same. All nutrients are the same. But some vitamins are water soluble. You pee them out. Some are not. So you don't pee them out, and that's why there's some vitamins that have toxicity levels. You can't take too much at once. Food is the same way. If you eat too much protein at a single meal, if you eat too many carbs at a single meal, if you eat too much fat at a single meal, yes, you're going to digest all of it. You're going to absorb some of it. And the rest that you don't absorb, you will store as fat. In some cases, you'll pee out some of the protein, but with carbs and fats, you will absolutely store the excess as body fat. So you want to eat meals that are under that threshold so that when you're eating, it's easy to digest and you absorb everything. It's no different than if you had to take 10,000 milligrams of vitamin C. The doctor would tell you, don't take it all at once. Spread it out through the day in small doses. And the same goes for your food. And lastly, if you eat too big of a meal, you will absolutely spike your blood sugar and insulin. So what do we do here? Well, you've got to put your body in the thermogenic state. This is the opposite of the repressed metabolic syndrome I just mentioned. When you put your body in the thermogenic state, 5 things happen. You start burning fat 24/7 because you crank up your metabolism and you reactivate your fat burning mechanism, which includes a series of hormones and enzymes that are being released in the right order. Number 2, your energy goes way up. So you start burning fat, your energy goes up. Number 3, you have a normal appetite. You're only hungry when it's time to eat. Number 4, your cravings vanish. And number 5, your hormones will actually balance because you're not depriving your body. You're not doing anything extreme that's going to throw off some of these other hormones. Your cortisol, insulin, thyroid, leptin, adiponectin, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, these hormones will actually normalize mostly on their own. Because remember now, your body's designed to balance itself and it's designed to heal. So when you create this environment, this thermogenic state, the body can do just that. Foods have an effect on this. I'm going to do a whole video on the thermogenic state. It's not up at the time I'm filming this, but as soon as it is, I'll make sure there's a link you could click here. Okay, lastly, veggies, vegan. Is that any good for women in menopause? Well, this is a real controversial topic, and I'm just going to touch on it today. In my experience over the last 25 years, many of the vegetables are what cause some inflammation in women for many reasons. There's certain natural toxins and chemicals in vegetables that allow them to survive. These are natural pesticides, things like that. Certain women may have food sensitivities or gut issues or autoimmune issues that make them more reactive to certain veggies. So when you're a vegan and you're trying to do everything plant-based, sometimes it can really be tough to get the right combinations of foods, and sometimes some of those vegetables may actually cause inflammatory responses in the body. Now, I'm not saying you should not eat vegetables, but I am saying over the last 25 years or so, I've observed that there's usually about 15, 20 different veggies that are almost always reactive with my clients, which will actually prevent them from losing weight. Top on the list, by the way, is tomatoes, kale, and believe it or not, broccoli. Those 3 tend to pop a lot. I'm not sure exactly why, but I'm just telling you sometimes that can be a challenge. Now, on our next video, we're going to be talking about gut issues. Gut issues. What do you do if you have a gut issue? How do you correct a gut issue? Because if you have a gut issue, you ain't going to be able to lose weight and burn off fat. So next video, gut issues. We'll see you then. All right, take care.